The strategy is only as good as its implementation. The DiGA is great as it is. They see this as the finish, but actually it's just the start. What is the actual unmet need? It certainly is not a hockey stick business model that you can run through. That is not the case in healthcare. There was a little bit of a lack of momentum in that sense.
Hi. Before we start, I'd like to remind you, please support Ukraine in any possible way. We really need that. And I'm really excited to introduce our today's guest. His name is Alexander Voigt. Hi, Alexander.
Hi, Alex.
Let's start with your short introduction. Please tell us a bit about yourself and how did you get into digital health space?
Yeah, sure. First of all, let me say thank you for having me today. It's a great honor to be a part of your channel. I have a background actually in broader digitalization, and when I started my career back in the days, I've worked at a consultancy that helped media and telco companies to transform themselves into in a digital way, and also to develop great digital products. And with that learnings that I made there, I joined Digital Oxygen almost 5 years ago when the company was founded, and have ever since been working in the field of digital healthcare. So taking my learnings from what I've seen in other industries that are yet farther ahead in terms of digital transformation and bringing those learnings to the healthcare and medtech sector in Germany.
Interesting. Let's start our conversation with talking, of course, about the revolutionary reimbursement program in Germany. Since it started a few years ago, can you tell us your thoughts on how is it going, what are the problems, and what are the future possible developments?
Yeah, sure. I guess you're referring to the DiGA fast track procedure in Germany, which is quite unique worldwide, yet still. And I think it is a great success if we take a step back from all the day-to-day discussions and all the news that are broadcasted through online channels and all the discussions around what things are not good and how things could be improved. I think if we look at it from a broader scale, it is quite of a success, because as of today, you already have almost 50 DiGAs and applications that can help patients in everyday situations where they currently might be underserved or where they might not receive as much care as they need. So there's always things that can be improved and always things that can go better. And if we take the effort to understand what is not perfect today, we'll also see what can be improved in the future. And actually, it's everybody in the DiGA situation, in the DiGA game, learning. It's the payers who have not yet reimbursed digital applications in a broader scale. It's the prescribers and the medical officers who have not yet dared to talk about those digital products because they were not part of an officially proven scheme like the DiGA Fast Track. It's the manufacturers who have not been in direct contact with prescribers as much as they now need to be. And it's also the policymakers and authorities such as BfArM who had not needed to take the effort to look into digital healthcare products as much as they need now with the DiGA Fast Track. So there's a lot of things that we can all learn if we listen well enough to each other in terms of process. So how you can become a DiGA, how the DiGA can be brought to the HCP, how the DiGA can then be brought to the patient, and also how patients can work with the DiGA successfully and not lose the interest halfway through. But it's also about the products themselves. How should a digital healthcare product and a digital application for healthcare be structured and designed in the best way so it can really bring the full potential that it has to the patients and really close the unmet need?
So you said there's around 50 already approved applications. What about DiPA? Are there any applications approved in this space, in the care space?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, there's none yet. But you also need to be honest and say the DiPA, the digital care application procedure, has only been around since beginning of this year, while the DiGA fast track has already been around for 2.5 years now. However, if you compare both products, you can see there's quite some differences, which make it much more complex to launch a digital care product, DiPA product, than a DiGA product. That is, in one sense, part of the process. And for example, the missing option for preliminary listing, that is also a way more complex way how you could bring the product to the market, to the people in need of care, and also a different way how you can prove there's evidence and there's a benefit from your product. All of those things are not yet as far developed as you would see them in the typical therapeutic area where DiGAs apply. And that makes it very difficult for a lot of manufacturers. And to come back to your questions, right now there is no DiPA listed. I would be surprised, to be honest, if we see a DiPA listed earlier than 2025. Maybe there will be one or two, but there will definitely not be a huge wave. And that's also what we hear from our market when we talk to potential manufacturers, that there is a limited interest to become a DiPA.
Interesting. And from my understanding, and we've talked about it in one of our episodes with Sebastian Vorberg, that the whole process and the launch of DiGA, it started like super fast, especially like for Germany, where the laws and the lawmaking isn't that fast usually. But now it looks like it's slowed down, and like what some people expected, like you're saying, for DiPA to be much faster, but it doesn't look like it's happening. What are the reasons for that?
I think back in the days when it was launched, there was a full focus on and commitment on digital transformation in the German healthcare system. In between 2020 and today, there was a change in the government and a new appointed healthcare minister who said they want to take a step back, analyze first again what is all needed in a broader scale than just talking about individual healthcare and digital healthcare measures. So there was, and I agree with that, there was a little bit of a lack of momentum in that sense. You could feel really that there was not that political push anymore for especially the DiGA topic. What you can see now, and that is quite positive, is that when the digital transformation strategy for the German healthcare system was presented last month, that there were also aspects in there benefiting the DiGA and the DiPA and all of the digital healthcare products topics. And those were, to be honest, not expected. Those were aspects that were for long asked for from many stakeholders, but not expected to make it into that digital healthcare strategy. So the fact that they are there now shows that there is now a gaining understanding and also a gaining will in the political area to really further improve the DiGA policy.
That's really good. To be an early bird is also a problem. Germany was an early bird in adopting this transformation. Do you follow other countries that right now are actually looking at Germany and taking the best practice and trying to avoid mistakes? How good are they doing? What do you think?
Well, there's a few that have committed to introduce a comparable pathway. You can see that, for example, France is currently launching this. It's called PICA. It is comparable, but not in every aspect. If we look at it from a broader scale, the idea was I think it was November 21, to create comparable policies all across Europe, so that if you are listed in one country, the authority in the other country would acknowledge you. So as a manufacturer, you would be able to scale and bring your products also to other patients and other markets. I see that as a great ambition and vision, but I don't see that to happen either short nor midterm, since the healthcare systems are very individual in each of the European countries, and that makes it very difficult to adapt one product to another, to other regions. Let's say it like that, and also to for the authorities to acknowledge the evidence that has been created in another country. And for example, let me give you a very specific example. So in France, also healthcare products or medtech products of class 3 will be allowed to become a digital reimbursable application. That is not the case in Germany. Germany has just committed on a political level to allow class 2B products. So there's already on that very first instance of who could become reimbursable already a difference, and that will make it very difficult in the long run.
I see. Talking more about some of the problems, I know that there's a pretty low conversion of digital prescriptions in Germany now. So basically, a patient is prescribed with some digital app, but I think 1 of 3 only installs that application and started using it. Why do you think that this is the problem, and what should be done to improve that?
It's a very, very good question. I think there's different reasons to that. First of all, and that goes back to the digital healthcare strategy in Germany, I think it's a lack of integration into a broader digital healthcare ecosystem. So the DiGA is great as it is, but it doesn't fulfill its full potential only with being there on its own. So let me give you an example. It would be way more easy for everyone, and just say it easy for everyone in the process if there would be an e-prescription. Since it's a digital product, you would also have an end-to-end digital prescription process. This is not the case, and this has now led to a process when you want to receive a prescription, hand it into your at your SHI, at your insurer, and then receive a DiGA code, go to activation, use the application, and this process has many points where there could be a conversion drop. I think this is not ideal, not for anyone in that area, not for the HCP who wants to help the patients, not for the patients who need to really take a lot of effort to understand how this process works, since it's brand new and nowhere implemented in other areas of the healthcare system, so they are unfamiliar with it. It's not at the benefit of the manufacturer, who needs to take a lot of effort to lecture the patient on how the process works. It's also not I don't think it's also not at the benefit of the insurers who need to pay for that product, because patients who might be seen as eligible for the reimbursement by their HCPs might not even make it to the stage where they get the product. So it's, in a lot of senses, a very good first start, and an opportunity for all of us to learn how it could be improved, but I don't think it's yet the end of the innovation on how this could happen. And this is just one example. And there's a lot of other items where you could see that DiGAs could fulfill greater potential if they interact with different ends in the healthcare system. For example, greater integration into the electronic patient record, so sending information to the electronic patient record, but for example also pulling information from the electronic patient record, so you can create a better understanding of the patient and a better care and therapeutic approach inside the DiGA. So there's a lot of things that can help to make the product better, and therefore also increase the conversion, make the process more smooth for everyone involved, and therefore also lead to better results. And also, when you think about how many DiGAs or how many manufacturers have tried to become a DiGA, you could see that there was like a real wave at the beginning, and many manufacturers heard of DiGA. At our company, at Digital Oxygen, we even had requests from South Korea. So it really was a buzz in the industry, and an area where Germany, for once, was avant-garde in terms of digital health, and still is. But you also can see that has slowed down over time, and also with the broader learning about how, in fact, complex the process is, despite it's being called fast track. It's always a relative comparison to what is fast. It certainly is not a hockey stick business model that you can run through when you become a DiGA. It's a highly competitive yet regulated market. And on the other hand, you could see that the manufacturers who have gone down that road, many of them would say, if I had known beforehand how big the challenge was, I would not have started it. But now, as I have gone through all of this, I'm happy that I have actually, crossed the start line with my listing as a DiGA, and now can become successful on the market and help patients directly since being listed. But I had not expected that upfront to be that effortful.
Okay. Tell us more about Digital Oxygen. What does the company do?
Yeah, thanks for asking. We are, we're basically consulting manufacturers of digital healthcare products and healthcare products on how to enter the German market. That, for example, means that when you approach us with your product, we can consult you and give you guidance on which market access path might be the best. Do you want to go for reimbursement? Do you want to go for out-of-pocket? Do you want to go into a B2B model? And then there's also sub-versions of that. So you could become a DiGA, you could become a medical aid in the Hilfsmittel registry, and other ways that you could pursue. And which path matches best to your product is always a very essential question. And from our point, also an essential one to be answered quite fast at an early stage. And we help the companies, once they have decided on which path they want to pursue, to walk down that path together with our network. So with our learnings, with our expertise and experience in exchange with authorities, in exchange with payers, in exchange with prescribers and patients who will use the products, or care receivers and caregivers, we help manufacturers to actually make it to, the start line to the market. When you say the product is now live in the market, many see this as the finish line once they have crossed the listing line or have made it into some registry or closed the contract. They see this as the finish, but actually it's just the start, and we also help together with our network beyond that. So we ourselves, to make it a little bit more tangible, are not a scientific institute. We are not a development company, but we have that network in our background, and we have that expertise that we can guide you through the complex path and complex way into the German healthcare system.
You mentioned that initially that you help a product to understand which path to take.
Yeah.
And since DiGA appeared, out-of-pocket strategy, I guess, probably is not very popular anymore.
It depends. Let's say it like that. If you want to become a DiGA, it's quite obvious that this will be an expensive endeavor at the beginning. And if you are not coming from a corporate background but have a startup background, you need some resources, especially financial resources, to invest into that DiGA project. And that can be two ways. Either you're already generating revenue through out-of-pocket, or other ways, but typically out-of-pocket, to bootstrap that development, that DiGA development, or you're already generating revenue, e.g. again through out-of-pocket or other ways, so you can prove against potential investors that your team understands the market. So I wouldn't say out-of-pocket has ended, definitely not. And in certain cases, I think it might also be the more beneficial way. And it depends on how your product what it really does, to understand which path might be the best. Also, especially in the care sector, it's quite common that you first need to spend the money and then will be reimbursed from once you have the invoice, will be reimbursed from the payer. So you are not. It's different also in certain sectors of the healthcare system.
Okay. Well, congratulations on Digital Oxygen being awarded Best Consultancy for 5 years in a row, right? Well, what's the secret of your team to be that consistent?
Well, thanks for noticing. I think we have a great team, and it's not a secret, I'd say, but we are very much committed to really creating real value. A lot of consultancies have the image that they just create slides and then they're gone, and that's not our understanding of how we can really help our clients. In contrast, we are always trying to really not only create new findings, but also to help to transform that into real product and into real value. That I think is one thing, and the other is a quite broad mix of perspectives that we have in our team and backgrounds that we have, leading to a more holistic understanding of the challenges of our clients and more holistic understanding of the of potential solutions, especially with our strong background also in other digital industries. That helps us to take a different look at solutions in combination with a strong background in the healthcare area. So if you bring those two things together, I think that's really the essence of what Digital Oxygen is.
All right. So how do digitalization of healthcare sector impact on the German healthcare market, both in terms of challenges and opportunities?
I believe that we have already a very big crunch in the German healthcare system in terms of human capacity and how humans can treat and help patients in need and in need of care, for example. And that digitalization is the key to manifold problems. And that includes this key includes data, it includes products, and it includes digital knowledge. And if you think about the healthcare system and how it will develop, we will not be able to even keep up the standard that we have today in the future to help patients. And that will still become a bigger problem in the future, because we're not even talking about improving the standard of care. We're just talking about keeping up the standard of care. And you can already see that, for example, today in the psychotherapy area in Germany, where people need to wait 6 or more months to get a treatment, an appointment. And in that situations, for example, patients do turn to Dr. Google, because that's just their first and most convenient way to find information. But that is maybe not the best way to find information, and therefore I believe it's very important to provide solutions that can help patients there. And that could be telehealth, that could be digital products, that could also be just online libraries with proven content where people can find information that can help them at that moment when they are in need, and not 3 months later when they could have been in need. And with that thinking, and if we have that kind of mindsets in our head, it helps us to innovate a lot and bring up new products. So much for the product area, and I think the other area is data. We've seen that during the COVID pandemic, that a lot of policy makers and a lot of politicians needed to take decisions based on blurry data, based on blurry understanding of what the reality is out there, not downtown in the capital, but maybe 100, 200 kilometers away in very rural areas. And that was not always, as we've seen now, very decision-based. You could, for example, take the example of closing schools and maybe also the damage that it did to the development of kids, and things that we know better today since we have the data now. But what if we could have had the data and the knowledge on how the pandemic developed back in the day when the decision needed to be taken? Could we maybe have taken better decisions as a community, or could we maybe improve that also for the future? And not talking about pandemics, but preventing other diseases that we can already detect at an earlier stage than we do today.
Just talking a bit about the future, what do you think we should expect in the nearest future in terms of German healthcare?
So in the nearest future, we will see that hopefully that the digital healthcare strategy that was announced will be put into legislation over the summer. And we're really looking forward to see that transformed into actions. More than a strategy. The strategy is only as good as its implementation. And once we will be there, we will already see the next iteration, and we will see things that might be approved again. So it's not so much about how good and how great is the vision of the long-term strategy for 15 years, but because nobody knew 15 years ago where we would be today. I'm not talking about healthcare, because basically we're still facing manifold problems that we already knew about 15 years ago, but in broader society, no one thought about AI and what issues that might cause or might not cause.
Let's wrap up our great conversation with some of your recommendations to digital health startups founders in Germany or around the world.
My recommendation, be aware that the healthcare market, especially in Europe, is very well regulated and competitive. So if you want to really help patients there, you need to have a long-term motivation, because it will not be a hockey stick, as you might be familiar with in the lifestyle sector. However, you will be able to help many patients here that are in need and that are also in growing need. So being aware of the challenge always helps at the beginning to understand how you should adjust your plans and your strategy, and also at the very beginning to understand what is the actual unmet need in the market that I'm going to target with my product, and what is the unmet need for the medical offices out there that I would change with my product. What is the unmet need for the patients in the very first instance, before even thinking about medical offices? Patients. What is the unmet need of the payers? Because if you're building a great product where that helps patients, but that does not deliver any measurable and valued benefit, you will not be able to keep that thing running on a long term. So you need to make sure that you find all of the perspectives and collect all of the perspectives while you're still designing your product. I think those are the two things: understanding that it's a long-term effort and that you're going into, but also with great outcome. And the other thing is that understanding that you need to understand the market at the very beginning and collect a lot of perspectives before you're really closing your product development for the market.
Yeah, I think this is really important. Well, thank you, Alexander. That was really insightful and important.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.